Today, we're taking a deep dive into the minds of millennials, the 18 to 29-year-olds who are critical to the health care law's success. The White House has stepped up its sales job to the young invincibles. It desperately needs to enroll in the health care exchanges to make them work.
I am not allowed, for security reasons, to have an iPhone. I don't know what your bills are. My suspicion is that for a lot of you, between your cable bill, your phone bill, you're spending more than $100 a month.
How many young people have cable these days? But according to a new online survey by the Harvard Institute of Politics, it won't be an easy sell. Just 39% of the 18 to 29-year-olds Harvard tested approve of the health care law, 56% disapprove. Though our late October NBC News Wall Street Journal poll found young people more positive about the law than any other age group. That's not saying much. In our polling, just 37% of those 18 to 34 said the law was a good idea. 44% of millennials told the Institute of Politics they expect their quality of care will get worse under the law. Half believe it will increase their health care's costs. And in the worst news for the White House, among 18 to 29-year-olds currently without health insurance, just 8% say they definitely plan to enroll in the health care exchanges. 12% say they'll probably enroll. And a whopping 47%, there's that number again, say they are unlikely to enroll. For the last 13 years, Harvard's Institute of Politics has conducted the survey of young Americans' attitudes toward politics and public service. This year, they found record disappointment in government and its leaders. Fewer than 1 in 5 young Americans believe the country is headed in the right direction. The president's approval rating is just 41%. That's down 11 points from a year ago. Overall, millennials, like the public at large, say, throw the bums out. 45% say they would oust their member of Congress. 52% want all members of Congress to go. And if it were possible, 47% say they would recall President Obama. I'm joined by the director of the Harvard Institute of Politics, former Kentucky Secretary of State Trey Grayson, and former Massachusetts Senator Mo Cowan, who's a fellow at the Harvard Institute of Politics. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us, Luke.
Former Senator Cowan, I'd like to start with you right off the bat. Health care, this signature domestic achievement for President Obama and for so many Democrats that you were closely associated with. The views on this law are just terrible. 56% disapprove of this generation. As I mentioned before, only 8% will definitely enroll. Those are the folks needed in order to support the older folks who are sicker and getting in the exchanges. What does this mean for your Democratic Party?
Well, Luke, I think it means that the administration and Democrats in the Congress and those of us outside of the Congress and on the streets who believe in the law and the merits of the Affordable Care Act and what it's going to do in terms of access and bending the cost curve, we have a lot of work yet to do to talk about the good that is in this bill and to dispel some of the misinformation that remains in the mainstream marketplace about the law. I think the poll results that we saw from the Institute of Politics yesterday indicate that attention needs to be paid on that with the millennials in particular, because if we don't get enough young people signed up for the Affordable Care Act, it really does throw off the actuarial science and we have a problem. So there's work to be done in spreading the good news about the law.
Trey Grayson, an interesting thing you find here in this polling is party ID. In terms from where we saw in 2009 to 2013, the Democratic Party has sort of lost a little bit of that percentage of millennials, specifically 18 to 25, and for their party ID. In 2009, it was 43%, 23 Democrat, Republican. Now it's 31 to 25. You have this sort of general cynicism about politics, specifically within that younger set. Which party benefits more from that? And on top of that, do you think Republicans can get some of those voters if they still have these problems with younger voters regarding gay rights and immigrant rights?
You're right. There is this split that's developing between the younger half of that generation who were less impacted probably by President Bush and more impacted by President Obama and the struggles with the economy and everything else. If you look at the polling, it does show that there's been a drop in support for Democrats, but the Republicans have not, you're right, been able to seize control of this. When you poll on some of those social issues, especially gay marriage, marriage equality, whatever term you want to use, that is an issue that is very supported by this generation. And for the Republicans to take advantage of the opportunity that's been handed to them, they're going to have to handle that issue really well. I think that most on college campuses, we see it here on our campus and other college campuses, most of the Republicans tend to be much more supportive of this issue. It's not a threshold issue. It's not a, if you're not for this, we're not going to vote for you, as we've seen in some other polls. But it's critically important. Otherwise, it's a wasted opportunity to try to see support from folks who are clearly looking for some other opportunities to support different leaders.
Senator Cowan, one thing that the president's re-election campaign really benefited from was turnout, specifically amongst African Americans, specifically amongst young people. And your polls are quite sobering in terms of the turnout machine for 2014. In terms of who will definitely vote in the midterm election in 2013, whites 36%, Hispanics 28%, African Americans 37%. That's down a lot from November of 2009. What do Democrats have to do? Can they rely once again on the get out the vote effort of Organizing for America, or do they have to knock on more doors and have a huge get out the vote effort, or are they in trouble?
Well, I think both parties are going to have to do a lot of work for 2014 and 2016, frankly, Luke, in terms of rebuilding the trust and faith and everyone's feelings about the government. The Democrats have work to do, and I think they have a tried and true method of getting it done. They will start at the grassroots level and make the case for the proper role of government in our lives, and particularly in helping those who can't help themselves. And I think that message still resonates. I think the poll results that we're speaking about today speak to a general dissatisfaction across the millennial generation about government for both parties. And I think both parties need to heed the warnings that are reflected there. There is some good news, though. I believe the poll results showed that even among Hispanics from the November 2012 election to those looking forward to November 2014, there's an expectation of a 3% uptick. So that's important, and that speaks to the power of issues around immigration and economics and others that the Hispanic community care about. And I think both the Democrats and the Republicans need to pay close attention to that. And there's a comprehensive immigration bill pending in the Congress right now. It needs to be attended to, it needs to be passed, and we need to move forward on that issue. Those are the kind of issues that these voters care very much about. And if the parties don't understand that or ignore that, they will do so to their significant detriment.
And Trey Grace, I want to go to you on the issue of student debt. That is something which not unexpectedly is viewed here as a huge problem. You have 57% say it's a major problem, only 22% say it's a minor problem. And that's something that Democrats have really tried to pounce on and move and make that one of their signature issues. The president has spoken a lot about it. Michelle Obama had a tweet yesterday, quote, "There's a new resource for counselors and mentors to help students through the financial aid process for college." What can Republicans do to try and grab some of that issue and try to make it part of their own platform?
Well, whether it's this issue or education more broadly or healthcare, what my party, because I'm a Republican, we have to do is speak to that issue, address student concerns. We're going to have different solutions than the Democrats have, but one of the things that President Obama and the Democrats have done a better job with speaking to young voters is talking to them about the issues that matter to them. And so I think that's something we need to do. You don't think a lot about Republican solutions to student debt. The president talked a lot about it during his campaign. And so, identifying solutions, talking about them, it's pretty important for the party if we're going to try to, address one of the top concerns of this generation.
And I'll get you both out of here with this one. One thing I found very interesting in this poll was that despite the president's approval rating going down, Harry Reid and John Boehner both have much larger disapproval ratings than the president. Harry Reid at 59%, John Boehner at 75%, the president at 54%. Senator Cowan, real quickly to you, and then Mr. Grayson, pick it up after that. Is it fair to say that this age group is very much just disenfranchised with the current process and pretty much up for grabs if folks talk directly to them?
I think so, absolutely. I think these numbers reflect general dissatisfaction with the way that government's working right now, or at least in the eyes of this generation, not working. And they're looking for some alternatives. And it's not to say that the people who aren't currently in office can't be that alternative, but they've got to speak to the issues, as Trey just said, and speak to the voters in this generation and listen and learn from them and address their concerns. They need to take take a cue from Pope Francis and perhaps shed the official garments and go out and walk among the people and listen and learn and deal with them on their own terms.
And Trey Grayson, there's sort of some of that in the Libertarian wing in the Republican Party. Is that where it's moving in order to get these millennial voters who are disenfranchised?
There is certainly a Libertarian strand, especially among the conservatives, and you kind of see it throughout this generation. But I think Mo's right. You have to talk to these voters. They're up for grabs. They have a general distrust for institutions and a general dissatisfaction for current leadership. But they've shown that when you talk to them, when you engage with them, you inspire them, they're going to vote, they're going to volunteer, and whoever does a better job with that's going to have a lot more political success on Election Day.
Trey Grayson, Mo Cowan from Harvard, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care.